a little bit already, but we are privately funded. Really, what that comes down to and what that means is that our terms, and I'll put it this way, it's rare that we see an opportunity that's already with our competitor that we will not be able to beat in some, at some level. We don't lose many opportunities to work this program. Again, it's merely because we're privately funded. Our business model is different than all of our competition, and it's just allowed us to be so much more flexible than everybody else. We're also able to offer a multitude of different programs as well, and we try to qualify the borrower for any one of these that they'll qualify for. We have a bank product, which it comes from a privately funded bank, but it's a partnership that we have, and it's based on interest rates ranging from 6.5% to 19%, but gives them a much longer payback period. So it's kind of like the lines of credit that we were talking about before from a bank, but it's something that's a lot more aggressive in today's environment. So we have that to offer them. There's a little more underwriting on that one. Typically, if we're going to qualify them for that, we would need 12 months of business bank statements and 12 months of their credit card statements. That's the only difference, really, that we need to look at, plus the one-page application. We also have a flex line of credit, which is very similar to the lines of credit that we were talking about. That's something that we can offer them. And then, of course, we also have purchase order financing, which I need to mention. And that's a great program, by the way. Anyone that has current purchase orders out there, we've got a deal right now. It's a golf ball manufacturer, and they've got a $1.4 million order, but they need to buy all the supplies to fulfill the order. And we've got that one approved right now to get a purchase order loan up to $1.4 million. So you can borrow up to 100% of your actual purchase order. And that's also very little underwriting to that one. They just kind of look at who has placed the order, make sure it's a credit-worthy company, and also make sure that the company that they're lending to can fulfill that, has the facility to fulfill the order. So lots of different reasons here, but again, we'll look at anything. We can tell you very quickly if it's something that makes sense or not. And it's a quick turn time and very little for you to gather in the way of documentation.
Let me just ask you about this golf deal, because see, in the old days they would have just gone to their bank and they would have shown them the purchase order and they would have gotten been able to draw on a line of credit. But they don't have that right now because the banks aren't doing that kind of thing. So they've got a perfectly valid customer with good credit and everything, who's going to pay for something, but this golf company, they needed to advance all the money and they need to ship the product and all of that. Is that the story? So they didn't have the capital to do that?
Exactly. That's exactly right. And we were doing some merchant advances, but the merchant advance, based on their historical, was a lot smaller than the amount that they needed. So we had to bring in and creatively find another way to get them funded the total amount that they required to fulfill their orders. So we've been getting them little, 90 to 100,000, 115, I think it was, a couple of merchant fundings, which I don't want to say they're small, but they are small relative to what the needs were of this particular individual. And, in assessing their situation and learning more about what they actually needed to fulfill their orders, we found this purchase order agreement, and so here we are. We're going to be able to get them all of the money they need to fulfill their orders.
So what's like the dental assistant? What is she? What kind of deals has she been bringing in? A myriad of. I know one of them was she did an IHOP, which had about 7 locations. Oh. She happened to know the guy and just was talking to him, and it turns out that they were a great candidate. She's been calling off of the leads that we have, and just been very persistent in phone calls and follow-up and kind of just doing the deal. I mean, reading the script is really what she's doing. I hate to say it that way, but that's really kind of what's happening. She's just been
following it to a T, and it's working very, very well for her. I wish we could mention how much she's making, but I know we can't.
No, we don't want to do that.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of people. Some people are like, we've got people like nail salons, for example, or salons, beauty salons. What are they? And some of them are getting $5,000-$10,000 really, or $20,000, right?
Right. Yep. I think we have the list. Do we have the list in this?
Yeah, I think we have a list of them. We can come back to this this slide because let's see.
Just to give everyone an idea of the different ideas of what can be funded on this program. But that golf guy's a great example. It's a manufacturer. You wouldn't think of necessarily that as a target, but it really, anybody that's doing business, commerce, is a possible candidate. Here's the list.
Yeah, even internet businesses, even if they do business on the internet, they're fine. So that restaurants, a lot of restaurants have a really, really tough time getting funding, and they usually will, the owners will borrow money from their friends and family, and they'll be on a shoestring, so when they start up the restaurant, they'll be completely out of cash. So common. They barely can make a rent lease payment on the premises because they spent all the money on all the other things they need to pay their purveyors and everything. So now, if their cash flow starts to build up, and do they have to be in business like 6 months or whatever to get capital this way generally?
I believe restaurants actually do in this particular program.
Yeah, I think it's 6 months, which is nothing much. Usually the restaurants, the hardest period is usually after 6 months anyway because they run out of their initial capital. So if they can establish some business that they're doing, we can give them a loan. And that's going to be very big. Bars, love bars. Bars are great. Actually, I don't drink, but I love bars from a standpoint of doing business with bars. Because bars really can make a lot of money, and they need money. The owners always want money. So
That's right.
It's true.
Yep.
Hotels and motels, even franchises, don't neglect them. Like the IHOP was a franchised deal. Many hotels are licensed, but they're really small businesses. So you see, it'll say some big hotel brand on it, but really it's a small business, and they're strapped.
Yep. Yeah, I want to make a quick note back to restaurants, too. They're the one category that we actually cannot do any of our other products, the bank products, with. They would only be for the merchant funding. They only can qualify for merchant funding. And the reason is, obviously, they're just, unfortunately, restaurants do have a high failure rate. So, but they love the merchant funding program. I think it's probably our best category, actually, is restaurants.
Yeah, restaurants and bars are really
and bars too. Yes.
Really, really good.
Yeah.
I'm in Virginia. We don't actually have bars here.
You don't?
No, they don't allow them. They only allow restaurants to serve liquor. They make it very easy for restaurants to serve liquor, though. So every restaurant serves liquor. It's very easy to get a liquor license as long as you're serving food, and the food is a certain percentage of your gross receipts. But, there's an enormous business here of restaurants everywhere. Bars, bed and breakfast, they don't have any other way of getting money, and a lot of times it's the only way to get money. Oh boy, automotive, that is such a cool one. Taxi cabs, limos, a lot of limo companies are small businesses. Some taxi cab companies are small. They really need the bucks. And then what about automotive repair places?
I was just going to say, that's a great category. I've got several, actually, that just came in that are automotive repair. They love this program. It's a great program for them. So they're everywhere.
What's the reason that they need the money?
Well, it can be for anything. Expansion, buying new equipment, working capital, paying, maybe payroll. They tend to run fairly tight, and so it's just for normal business expenses a lot of times.
So florists, they have no other way of getting capital. Garden shops, liquor and wine shops, again, one of my favorite kinds of small businesses to work with are liquor stores. It's impossible not to be making money at a liquor store as long as you are keeping your eye on the business. They all make money, and they all need money. Liquor stores are tremendous.
Yep.
Dry cleaners and laundromats. Wouldn't have occurred to me, but I could see it. I could really see it.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. That wouldn't have occurred to me either.
Yeah, nail salons and beauty salons is huge. You go to any strip mall now, and you'll see at least one of beauty salon and a lot of times a nail studio. They're not going to go to the bank and get a loan. There's no way. Some of these are run a lot of times by immigrant populations, and they may have their own sources of funding inside of their community. But a lot of them, that they sort of exhaust those, and then they need money. So bicycle and motorbike shops, yeah. C-stores, as we call them, gas stations, I guess we go along with C-stores. There's no problem with gas stations.
Nope, they're fine.
Have we done gas stations lately? We've been doing gas stations?
I don't know off the top of my head of any, but I know that they're okay. I can't think of any specific. I haven't had any personally, but I know that we can do them.
Okay, yeah. So you can see. I mean, basically, this is what we call Main Street America. Let me go back to, now that we've kind of given you that, let me go back to the what makes us different, because I'd like to again find out the flexibility in borrowing costs on terms, and so we have these other lines. So there's three things that we're talking about right now, right? Merchant account funding, flex line, and purchase order financing, or am I wrong about that?
Yes, plus the merchant. Well, it's the merchant account plus the bank product.
Okay.
Plus the flex line plus the purchase order financing.
So the merchant account and the bank product are very similar. The money's coming into the bank account, or money's coming into the merchant account, and a certain amount of that can be advanced to the business.
Right. It's just the terms. The payback is much different in the bank product than the merchant funding.